the Angel of Music here. And I decided to make this video in response to a video that was made on a channel called You Can Unhear This. In the video that they posted, was called The Drum Mystery of the Beatles' Most Beautiful Song. The guy that did this video, he made a claim on the video about how on the song Dear Prudence, how there was like a drum overdub onto the song that might have been done by Ringo. Now that is this mystery is no mystery at all, and that is the Ringo did not play drums on Dear Prudence. As a matter of fact, Paul McCartney was the drummer on that session, and as a matter of fact, this was around time that Ringo took a break from the Beatles. He temporarily left Beatles, leaving it just to being John, Paul, and George making the songs. And so they recorded two songs with the lineup of John, Paul, and George, which was Back in the USSR and Dear Prudence. And on both songs, Paul McCartney took over drumming duties on both of them, and he did an amazing job, may I add. And so Ringo did not rejoin the band until about a few weeks later when they started to recording um, the brand new George Harrison composition, which is While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And there was a book that came out back in 1988. It's done by an amazing author named Mark Lewinson. It's called The Complete Beatles Recording Sessions. Now, this is not the original 1988 book. This is the 2004 um, repress. And so this book has like a lot of the information that was on the 1988 book, but more updated to coincide with more of the further um, research that Mark Lewinson has done. And everybody knows that Mark Lewinson is like one of the biggest Beatles historians out there, especially when it comes to their recording career with EMI Records Parlophone. And even in this book, which is on page 152 on this edition, the recording for Dear Prudence began on August 28th on a Wednesday. And the only people that were on that recording was John Lennon on John and George on guitars and Paul McCartney on drums. And then they had like an overdub session the next day, and in that session we saw Paul McCartney overdubbing his bass guitar. Most likely it would have been either the Rickenbacker 4001 or his Fender Jazz, which most likely it was the Rickenbacker that he was playing. And also there's double track lead vocal by John Dunn, as well as backing vocals and hand claps and tambourine done by both Paul and George. And also featured contributions in the background by Paul McCartney's cousin John and Apple artist Jackie Lomax. So that was on the 29th. And then the final session for this song, the very final session after of this session was done on the 30th of August. And this session was only done by Paul McCartney. And that was Paul overdubbing um, piano onto the song, as well as a flugelhorn overdub, which was like a very short burst of it that was somewhere in the song. And so that was basically it. There's only three recording dates of that song. And then the tape of that would not be touched until October 5th when they took the tape out to do its first mono mix. But the final time that they will take out the tape will be on the 13th of October, and that's when it received its final mono mix as well as its only stereo mix. So between that time, that tape was never touched and it was never overdubbed by anyone else, including no overdubs done by Ringo. Now everybody made the argument that okay, this book is a little bit outdated because there might have been information that came into light, and so maybe Ringo did. Well, then there was this other thing that came out, which I think everybody remembers back in 2018, and it's called the White Album 50th Anniversary. And so this one use some of the research that was done by Mark Lewison, as well as new research done by Kevin Howlett, who has been taking over the helm as another Beatles historian on these recordings. And even in this book, it states right here recording dates, um, 28th, 29th, and 30th August 1968, Trident Studio. And then the mono mix and stereo mix was done on October 13th. And then a list right there in black and white. The only people that was on this session was John on lead vocals, backing vocals, electric guitar, and tambourine. Paul McCartney, backing vocals, bass, piano, drums, flugelhorn, and hand claps. And then George Harrison, backing vocals, lead guitar, and hand claps. And then the only additional people on this session, of course, states right here, Mal Evans, Jackie Lomax, and John McCartney. So if there was ever any evidence that Ringo did any kind of drumming on it, it would have appeared on this edition. It would have said something right there, Ringo Starr drum overdubs. But there was no overdubs that were ever done on the drums. All the drumming was done by Paul McCartney. So that means that it was all Paul doing the drums. Ringo never touched the track, he never drummed on the track. And even though it shows Ringo playing drums on on the rock band thing, which the the guy that put out this video, we can't unhear this. He says like, oh, even it shows Ringo playing drums on um on the rock band video. Then why does it also show Ringo playing drums on Back in USSR when in fact Paul McCartney was also the only drummer on that? If you were gonna make the um the you know um basically the debate that okay, well Ringo played drums on this because it shows him on Rock Band, then you also need to make the argument. That's what where I was looking for. You also have to make the argument that Ringo was playing drums on Back in USSR as well because it shows him on Rock Band, which we all know that Rock Band they were very loose on how they showed it. They didn't want to make sure they showed all the whole complete like who was playing what and stuff like that. Because then in that case, if they would have done the song She Said for Rock Band, would they have had Paul there playing bass, even though Paul did not play bass on She Said. And there's like a lot of other songs on there that they showed that the Beatles recorded where one or the other member was not there. Especially when it comes to the Abbey Road stuff, where there are some sessions there where John was not part of it, and especially there's also the thing where they show the Beatles on the rooftop concert playing I Me Mine, and everybody knows that John never learned guitar for I Me Mine. But on Rock Band, they show him. So Rock Band is one of the things where you have to take it by a grain of salt, you know. Um, so that's my argument. Ringo never played drums on Dear Prudence. It was all Paul McCartney. And you could tell it's Paul McCartney because all the drum fills that you hear at the end of the song sort sort of like sounds like all the drum fills that he would do on Karina Corey on the McCartney album, or when he did drums on My Dark Hour by Steve Miller. Paul. Not many people know this, but Paul was also a drummer too. As a matter of fact, Paul played drums before Pete Best for the Beatles, because there was a time where um, before they got into Hamburg that it was basically just John, Paul, George, and Stuart Sutcliffe, and um, so when they got the gig in Hamburg, they said like you have to be a five-piece band, and at that time Paul was playing drums, so um, Paul was already like a drummer, and he was a really good stellar drummer because there were times that Pete Best wouldn't even show up to gigs in Hamburg that like either Paul would play drums or they got their new friend, which was Ringo Starr, playing drums. But Paul was always a drummer, and he played drums for like a lot of other people and a lot of other recordings. So to dismiss that Paul wasn't doing those drum fills on Dear Prudence is basically asinine. So that's my argument and my response to You Can Hear This, the drum mystery on the Beatles' Most Beautiful Song. That was all Paul on drums, no Ringo. Sorry to upset all the Ringo people out there that wish that Ringo was the drummer on that song, but no, he wasn't. Thank you and have a good night.